Hello and welcome to my studio. This is Sherry from Heart and Soulful. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. If you enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and then you won't miss out on a thing. So I'm going to work on today a follow-up to the button video that I had done, and I'll put a link to that original video in the description so you can find it and go back and watch it. It will go into more detail how I came up with this idea and step-by-step kind of how to do it. But since I'm very new to YouTube and to all this kind of stuff too, so you might not know that if you haven't been watching, but I'm kind of learning as I go, and I share videos. And so when I come up with new tweaks or little ideas or, oh, I didn't think of that, I want to do follow-ups. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. But also, I've had a couple of questions on my other videos. And so I kind of wanted to do just a little catch-up on what I've been up to. I kind of have a couple of different things going. If you follow my Facebook page, which I'll put the link to also, you'll see there kind of what I'm working on every day. And if you've been following me there, you know I bounce all over the place. I do a lot of different things. I make jewelry, I do knitting, and now I got into all this paper craft stuff and journaling. And so I kind of work on all of it. And because it's the new year, that kind of always gets me kind of overall regroup, see what I have bits and pieces of, and kind of clean up in here. So I've spent kind of the last week or so kind of doing that. I had been neglecting jewelry all during this whole COVID thing, so I kind of wanted to get back on track for that. So I'm going to put all the links to my different places you can find me. I'm on Facebook, like I said, and you can shop my jewelry and my neck warmers through there. And also on Instagram. On Instagram, I usually put things once they're finished. And then if I have jewelry there, it lets me tag it to my website. I also have an Etsy shop where I sell my knitting. And I also put the buttons there because that's why I started doing the buttons to go with my neck warmers. So I sell both of those there. And then I had a request from someone who found me on YouTube, I guess, I'm not sure, to see if I would ship internationally, because so far I hadn't. And I was just a little intimidated by it. So I went ahead, and she's in London. I did do a first shipment. I think it's going fine. She should get it this week. And it made me realize that it's really easy to ship internationally on Etsy. Not so much on my website, but on Etsy. So if you see some jewelry or something like that on my website that you like, just send me a message and I'm happy to move it over to my Etsy shop for you, and then I can ship it out easy. So I wanted to mention that because I hadn't before. And then I am starting to put some jewelry items, I think, as I go into my Etsy shop too, so that I can reach, I have like 2 whole different customer bases. So I want to be able to kind of reach everybody with everything. Then I'm also on Pinterest. Whenever I list something in my jewelry website or on Etsy, I send it to Pinterest. So you can also shop from there, because I know not everybody does Facebook and Instagram and that kind of thing. So what I've been doing this week was kind of catching up on some things, and it got me to working on buttons again. One of the things that got me sidetracked was when I decided I wanted to sell the buttons. I wasn't sure when I first started making them that I was going to sell them, but I decided that I had some requests, so I decided that I would. So I needed to come up with some cute packaging. And so when I did that, I went ahead and decided to use that same packaging for my jewelry line. And that ended up becoming a whole other thing. I even did them for the bookmarks that you've seen me make. I can put that link also in the description. I did a tutorial how to make these bookmarks. So it got me sidetracked. I ended up making my own paper out of recycled book page for the back card, and then designed and made these cards for the front that I then stitch on, because now I've gotten so addicted to this whole paper craft thing. And I like that it made my whole packaging, branding kind of cross over to all the new things that I'm doing. So I was working on that. And then I ended up, doing the cute jewelry cards. These are for little small earrings. And then I also use them for rings. They turned out really cute for the rings. Let's see. Here's one for just a little ring box. So you can fast forward through all this if you just want to see the button stuff, but I just thought I'd share it because I've been working on it. So little ring boxes, and then I do little small earrings in these. And then I did some square boxes with, oops, which I still need to design my tissue paper because this is, I can't get any more. But this is for little bracelets. And then I use the same box with this card for longer earrings. And then I like to attach a little cute thing to the top. And I was out, and I had been buying them before, so I had a bunch of little flowers. So I made up a whole bunch of these. And this just took me some time. And then these are for necklaces. Oops. So everything I send out is gift wrapped, even if it's not a gift. So if you do want it to be a gift and drop ship it to somebody, then all you do is let me know in the notes, and let me know what you want the card to say and the occasion, and I'll actually include a birthday card or anniversary card or whatever it is that you want. So that's one thing I've been working on. And then I also had a question from someone if I was ever going to finish this stacked envelope journal that I started working on. And I am. She had not watched the most recent video, so I sent a link to her for that. But I did a tutorial on how to put this whole file folder stacked envelope journal together, but I hadn't decorated it all. I'm gonna use this for my the new challenge I'm working on for myself to use up just book pages. So my second video was to make all this, start making some mixed media paper. And I only did the first few steps and did a video how I mass made these, but now I want to go and make them more detailed, add more layers. In this one, you can see I took just a little white uniball pen and just did some doodling around, and then did some slow stitching on it. So it's taking me a while to kind of get all these parts and pieces, but once I have enough to show another tutorial and come up with some good ideas, I'll do another video on that. So I am working on that too. But today, like I said, my work table was getting crazy, and so I was ending up with this pile of recyclables that I've been working on. I cut these up to use for journal covers, books, but I have all the little flaps that I take off, and so I started making the buttons out of that. So I wanted to do a follow-up to the button video, and like I said, I'll put a link to the first one of this. But I've come up with a couple little more things that I've learned along the way. So if you want to see the step-by-step, go back to that first video. And then these are just kind of some new things that I wanted to point out. So basically, I've used my circle punch. This one's a 1 inch because for my neck warmers, that's kind of the size I like. 1 1/4 is good too. You can go any size button you want and you use them for whatever you want. But this one is what I've been using. So if you're wanting to buy my buttons right now, the 1 inch is what I have. I might do one a little bit larger. I also have a smaller one, but I don't have any buttons finished of that size yet. So what I did then was I would cut out just cereal boxes, whatever. And in this case, I wanted to just remind everybody and point this out again, just because it's something that I figured out, is I had started stashing like just massive amounts of these into a bin, and then pulling them out randomly. Well, they're not all the same thickness. So I decided for me, because I'm wanting to sell these, I really want them to be consistent. So I will take the same box and now go ahead and make my stack for the thickness so that they're consistent. And I try to do all my buttons in pairs or in threes because that's how my neck warmers are. I have 2 button ones and I have 3 button ones. So whenever I'm making a bunch of these, I'm doing 6 or 12 so that I always have pairs or threes alike. So that just became kind of important for me so that my color is consistent through here and the thickness. So what I did for these, they're already just plain cardboard on the other side. So I just did a stack of 4. And at least then I have them all made up and I can see which ones go together. Like these all were from the same thing, but they're different on the other side. So at least I'm consistent, you know, with my sizes. That was one thing. The other thing is for ones like this that are not already a cardboard colored on the back, that maybe have print like this, I I want to end up with a clean slate before I start doing my decorative part. So for this one, what I do is I have just some scrap cardstock. I have leftover pieces from my jewelry cards that I'm making. So this is just craft paper cardstock. So I cut a bunch of circles of that, and then I use that for my bottom of my button. That way all my buttons are the same underneath. It's just for me a consistency thing since I want to sell these. So I do that. And then for my top part, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see this, but you'll see these little lines, 3 lines. That's because I was mass making these yesterday, and I want, you sit there and you're squeezing all the Mod Podge or glue, whatever kind of glue you're using out. And I want that edge to be nice and tight. So I went ahead and started using these so that I can clip these together while they're drying and then move on to the next one and kind of have a rhythm going. The only thing about doing that, and I want to point it out, is it does create a little impression from the clip. Now that's fine because my decorative part's going to go on top of this. So I just want to point that out. Don't use the clip after you do your decorative part, but it's okay to use it for that. These are like the inside of my button. Okay, so that was a little tip. And then we put that on the back. Now some buttons, I've tried some new different materials too, and then I have some finished that I kind of want to show you how they ended up, and then some almost finished. So one thing that I had liked to work with, and I've worked with it maybe in the first video, I think I might have mentioned it, is cork. Now you can buy sheets of cork. This is a larger pattern, and this one has some little, I don't know if you can see, there's some more holes, some voids in there. I like this, but you need to be aware that you're going to see through whatever is in that hole. So sometimes what I like to do is take one that is plain on both sides, and I can leave it this craft color, and then you won't see anything. It'll just look like the color of cork. Or if you want it to have a contrast, you could paint turquoise or something under there and see that through. It's just a different look, but you need to be aware that that larger weave has holes in it. And this, I just got this at Michael's. I'm not sure the brand. It might be Recollections because I know they do some fancy ones, and I did buy a couple of other cork ones, and they were, let's see, I still have that. They were by Recollections. So this was the other cork sheet, and you see how thin, it's just paper thin. And the cork will actually, at least this one, I don't even remember about the other one, but some things will cut right through here. You can punch through it. And one thing I learned about anything that's fabric-y or even paper is when you go to make your punch, don't punch slow because it'll kind of eat the material. If you want it to be nice and clean, get committed, line up where it is, and then punch hard, and you'll get a much cleaner edge. So that was one kind of thing I've been learning as I go. Let me see while I have this if this was easy to do. Okay, that was easy to do, but you can see it has these little gaps where one of those voids were. So like I said, you can put it on just a plain and it'll look like craft paper through there, or I could color that. Now, while I'm telling you that, I have some that I have colored. These aren't finished, but you can kind of get an idea. These were the big open weave one. And what I did on this one, on the cork that I've learned, and I may have mentioned this in the other video, is because of all those voids and things, and it's the same with burlap or anything that has an open weave screen, any of that kind of stuff, you'll get bubbles in some spots if you don't seal that. So I kind of use my Mod Podge as a sealer first, or at least a very thin layer of the resin that I kind of really watch for bubbles before, and then you kind of just do thin layers and you can avoid that. So that's kind of a tip that I have figured out. Now, I didn't mention at the top of this video that what I use for these buttons is jeweler's grade resin because I do jewelry. So if you watch that first video, it goes through all of those steps, how to do that. But this is just the first 2 steps to making the buttons. Like I said, my table was getting full of recyclables, so I wanted to kind of get some going, even though I don't have resin. I'm not going to resin these yet. So that was the cork. Now, one thing about cork, also gluing cork, I used to do a lot of like home decor type things, making bulletin boards. So if you've ever done any of that, you know that cork, you need more than just Mod Podge or Elmer's glue or any of that kind of glue to actually glue cork so that it's bubble free and that it really adheres. What I learned way back then was rubber cement. You brush it on each side separately and wait about a minute, and then you put it together, and then use your brayer or roller or whatever and flatten it out. For large projects like that you really need to adhere and they're not going to be sealed inside of resin, you would need something like that. But for this, because my resin's going to encase all of this, I didn't really need it. You can see that it's really not sticking very good. And that was okay. I just kind of need it to be where it's going to go while I do my inking and thing. But once I do the resin around the edges, it's going to be sealed in there. So the next step that I do after, for the cork ones anyway, is go ahead and do my, I use Distress Oxide in Vintage Photo. You could use any color you want, but I like to go around the edge just so that in the end you might not notice that it's a stack of, it'll look maybe like wood or something. You're not gonna know that's cardboard. And that just kind of gives it a more finished professional look than leaving it plain. So like this one's plain. So I just want them to be as manufactured looking as possible, but handmade, but just a good quality. So I do that. And then when you go over that with your Mod Podge, it actually kind of makes the ink kind of feather out and kind of get softer looking. And I'll do one on a paper one just so you can see what I mean. So this one's not done at all. This is how they look plain, but then this is actually cut from the same paper, and you can see that I've done that edge already, and then put the Mod Podge, kind of makes it bleed. So I'll show you again. I did this in the first video, but I'm going to show you again anyway, in case this is the first time you're seeing this. So I just go around the edges, and I do the back side too, which kind of gives it more of a leathery look. So that's kind of looks like cardboard. Well, now it's going to look a little nicer. Okay. And then I kind of just go however far I want. You can go over the whole thing if you want, but I love how it just kind of richens up the color instead of being maybe so bright. So I don't know if you can see, so far I just have ink on that. And then if I take my Mod Podge, which is getting kind of dry sitting here, and I just kind of go, don't do too much. It does two things. It'll make that, you can almost see it as it's drying, kind of in here, how it kind of bleeds. It looks like it's just softening and bleeding. It just makes it much prettier, I think, than just a harsh kind of thing. The other thing that the Mod Podge does is it acts as a paper sealer. If you don't seal your paper when you use resin, the resin will soak into the paper, and then it almost makes it opaque in a way. So any kind of print or anything underneath would show through. You've seen on my, let's see, as an example, this is, these leaves were made from tissue paper. Actually, it's the tissue paper from my packaging. If you saw that, the resin made it look like glass. So, because this wasn't sealed. So if you're going to do something on paper and you don't want it to look like that, then you need to seal the paper first. So that's why I have gone ahead on these these are all made out of wrapping paper, is gone ahead and I haven't done it yet, but I will seal all of these. I want to do my inking first, and then if I also want to do some sparkle. So I wanted to show the difference of those two. So I did another little experiment today because it had been a little while since I have done this. So these two, I did the Mod Podge first And then I used my, where'd it go? My sheer shimmer from Imagine. I love this stuff. It just gives it that tiny bit of sparkle, and it's just a spray. It takes a little bit to dry. You can either use a heat gun or just let it dry on its own. But I sprayed some of that on there. And a little tip too that I did, which don't laugh at me, but I'm not the only crazy person, because someone else commented that I wasn't. So I actually saved these. This is just my baby wipe, but when I've, you know, cleaned up my mat or my hands or whatever with the color, then it makes it kind of a tie-dye thing. So I started using these two. Then when I'm going to spray my sparkle, I'll put them here and then spray. So that way it also makes it sparkly. And then when I want to use it in something, it's got paint and sparkle on it. So I started kind of doing that. So this one I did the Mod Podge and then the sparkle. And this one I did sparkle and then the Mod Podge. And I kind of think I might like that better. But one thing I did notice when I did the spray on this first is if you have used something like this that shows the print, then you wet that paper, you might see that text through there. Now in my case, I could kind of see a little bit of text, but when I dried it and sprayed, I didn't see it anymore once it was dry. So that was okay. But to be safe, what you might want to do is make this top be a clean slate before you put your decorative thing. If it's going to be something that you see through it, either paint over it first or put another piece of solid cardstock or some scrap or something on it so that you won't see anything you don't want to see underneath. So that was kind of that little tip. As you can see from my first video, I've also now bought a couple of different sizes of heart punches because I thought, oh, it'd be really cute to make some heart-shaped buttons too. So I'm going to do that for the first time. I hadn't done that. And it actually, it worked out pretty good. The one thing that I would point out is you have, you're stacking 4 pieces. And so you want them to be really lined up. You don't want them to be sliding off of each other. And in my last video, I had mentioned this, that one side of the box is rough, you know, because it's the inside. And then the printed side is usually more slick. If you try to do these two together and glue them, they really slide around. If you do, you know, craft side to the printed side, it's less so, but you still have to be careful. So what I found with the heart-shaped ones, because they were very specific in their shape, was to just do 2 pieces together, do them in 2s, so that those kind of set up before you put 2 and 2 together to make the 4 stack. It made it a little bit easier to keep them from all 4 sliding around while you're trying to make your button. So that was a little tip too. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is when I went to do my packaging, because I didn't originally know that I was going to want to sell these until people started asking for them. So when I was putting the shank on the back side, which I've handmade, I showed this in the video too, I think, in the first one, is I made the little shank from just some wire that I've wrapped so that it's 3 wires on the what's going to be the bottom and then 2 on the top. And the reason for that is I needed it to be able to sit on to resin while resin was wet and just sit flat like that. So one loop wasn't going to sit that way. I needed some width to it. So that's what I came up with as how to make my shank. Well, what happened was when I decided to do my button packaging, and I'll grab one here, my button packaging, it took me a while to figure out how am I going to make this look really clean and professional and hold these buttons into the card. I went online and looked for those little plastic things you see go. I couldn't find anything, you know, already done. And I thought, I really like it to look organic anyway. So, and handmade, but really nice. So I came up with using these little, I got these little craft sticks at Walmart in the craft section. First, I tried using bamboo skewers. And, you know, bamboo kind of splits, so that didn't work so good. But these, they fit through my shank hole perfectly and then just snip it off. So I ended up using those. Well, what I found out was if I want the little sticks to go this way through, if my button has a top and a bottom kind of thing, I want them to look lined up correctly in my packaging, just because I'm a detail-oriented person, if you've been watching me. So it made me realize I wanted to have some kind of mark on the back of my button to know where to put the shank, because before, the first ones I did, I was just eyeballing where to put it, because you know, I do a lot of craft things. I can pretty much eyeball where the center of something is. So I was just kind of, you know, putting it in the resin wherever I thought center was. So I decided I needed it to be lined up. And also when you're sewing them on, if to neck warmers or whatever, you kind of, you know, it's easier if they're all kind of going the same direction. So what I came up with to do is take a little piece of graph paper, or if you have a little compass, compass thing to make circles, you can find where the center is. So you could do one of those with a 1 inch. I didn't have that, so I just used a little piece of graph paper, made a center, you know, by folding it into 4 pieces, cut my 1 inch circle, and then made a little heavier duty pattern. So I have a template for where my center hole is. So I just used a little hole punch, smaller than the big binder size, and then just made a hole. So 2 things you can do. You can either make a bunch of these and have that be your underlayer, your last layer, and then you would have a little little place to set your, that'll kind of hold that. You could do that. I don't really feel like I need to do that, but I do want to make a mark. So I did it on one of these. Where is it? Uh-oh, now I've lost which one I did it. I know I did it on a heart. I just took my circle, and now I can't find which one I did. It's hiding from me. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I took one, and I kind of just, you know, looked over to see where I thought the top was, and then put my little circle there, and then took a little fine pen that I've now put away somewhere. And then I just make a line up and down inside that circle where the direction I want my shank to go. So that way what'll happen is, now I just have this little line. When I go to put my shank on, I can just put it right on top, and then you won't see my line anymore. So that was kind of a thing that I came up with after the fact, because I wanted it for packaging. So that is a little idea there. And then let's see, I wanted to just show you some finished ones maybe. So I did a whole bunch of these. These to me remind me of like little plates, like porcelain plates. And they were from a paper pack that I think I showed in the first video, that was like a vintage wallpaper pack. So I cut out just the floral pattern. But these look really cute when they are, I don't have them finished, but when I used my, I think in this case I used walnut maybe of the Distress ink. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to play around, but I think it's the walnut stain one that I did. But I went around the edge, and then I don't know if you can see this in this, but in the, do I have it in here? Okay. On the edges, you'll see how there's like little whiter pieces instead of the ink. And that, I think, is from maybe a little bit of Mod Podge stayed on there and acted as a resist, which I kind of like it, because it looks like, you know, they're aged. And you can kind of see how it's bled through. That was from the Mod Podge, putting that as a sealer over the top. So I just loved how these turned out. So I'm doing a whole bunch more of these that I'm going to have going here. And then these ended up really cute on neck warmers. And I actually even sold some just of the buttons. So I wanted to show you what they look like finished. So I've put this as this is an Isaac Mizrahi yarn, but it's just crazy color. So to find what buttons I wanted for that is kind of what got me to making these buttons. But I mean, I just thought those looked so cute on there. And that would be this one. And you can see how different they look when they're finished. So I have gone with my vintage photo, and then you can see, I think you can see even in the camera here, let me see, is that it has some sparkle to it, and that's from that sparkle spray. So that was one, how that ended up. And then This one, I recently listed this one and I just loved, this is one of my favorite yarns. It's just so colorful and soft, and I really liked how this one looked on it. So I thought, oh, I definitely need more of those. So I'm making some more. That would be this one. So you can see how different they look once they are completely layers and layers of resin, where they're just finished and smooth and they feel like a button. So that was that finished. And then I had also done some that were just with a kind of a crinkly, already wrinkled looking paper. And then I added just enough of that vintage photo. And this one, actually, I might have put another color on too, that kind of highlighted the raised parts of those buttons. But that one turned out really cute. And what else do I have here? Oh, that was the same paper. These aren't finished, but that was the same. This is the same paper, and I think I had showed these in progress. This one's just about ready for its shank on the back. But I had just taken my dauber, like my daubers for stenciling, 2 different sizes, and then just made some little gold dots. So just, you can paint in them. There's, I mean, your imagination just can, whatever you can come up with, I think that sky's the limit. So another one that I had done were some rusty screen, really from a screen door, rusty screen door. And I had cut those out. I had painted it kind of a turquoise to look like natural turquoise underneath, and then put the screen over the top. And those look really cute on this one. So just something unique and different that you won't see anywhere else. And then I've got, let's see here, a couple of trays. Let's see what I have here going. Oh, I did some, these aren't finished either, but these are with crushed. If you follow my jewelry at all, you'll know that I save all my semi-precious stone beads that are broken, cracked, whatever, and I crush them. And then I use those, I call them my confetti hearts that I make. And I thought, oh, that'd be pretty to do some buttons. So these aren't finished, they're still rough. I need to get them domed enough, but I'm making some of those to try out. These were some screen that I stained behind the paper before I put the screen on, just a kind of a brown color. I like to do kind of natural looking ones because I'm trying to think what goes on the neck warmers that I make. These are some cork, but then I also did that peacock feathers ink first too, and then when you go the vintage photo over it, it kind of turns it a green color. So I did some of those. These are all just done on, if you do some buttons that are blanks with just cream cardstock or something, then you can just use your distress oxides and dyes and things to color them. And so I like some of those. This one I did a thing on my Facebook page, see if anybody could guess what this was made out of. And actually, the buttons that I showed them to try to guess weren't those, but let me find them here because, here they are, were these. And you can see these I did with sparkle too. If you could see that they have that sparkle. I just love that, you know, when you want it just to be subtle. So these were cardstock that I painted. It was white cardstock, painted the peacock feathers on the back, and then this inside was actually white eyelet. So now if you've been following my Facebook and you saw that post, nobody guessed, but it actually started out looking like this. I just did one like this, but I cut out the eyelet fabric, and then the color is because I had went around, I may have sprayed this, I can't even remember now, but with like a distress ink or something. And I'm sure it's a vintage photo because that's what I use a lot, but it was white. So it just kind of gave it that tea stained looking kind of color. But those are really cute. I like those. So just different, some ideas of things that you can use. I've done burlap. These are the burlap ones. You can see which, you know, when you do layers and layers of this jeweler's grade resin, it looks like it's underwater. You know, so it kind of magnifies what's inside. I'm going to do some with some vintage watch gears and stuff like that too. I just haven't gotten around to it. These are just some Tim Holtz paper pack that I just punched out parts of the paper that I liked. And then I decided that I did some with vintage music paper. And I thought, well, you know, I might be able to even come up with something for to make for people who don't do a lot of jewelry maybe, or want to make their own bezels, is to make these wire bezels. So I'll probably do a tutorial. This is still me experimenting, but I think it's going to turn out nice. So it would be a way to be able to make your own jewelry also if you don't do a lot of that. So those are just some little ideas. And I think that is about it for today. Again, I'll put all the links to all the places you can find me on social media and my websites and things. I'll put those in the description so you can, you know, find me wherever you happen to wander. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your days. If you have any questions at all, you know, put them in the comments for me. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, and follow me, you know, wherever you can. You know, join in on Facebook. I do a drawing once a month there, so lots of good prizes. So if you want to follow me there, if you like, comment or share, you have to share publicly where I can see who shared, because sometimes if you do it privately, you share and I don't know you shared. Either that or tell me you did, and I can tell somebody shared, I just can't tell who. So if you do, I enter you into a drawing for that, and it could be as many times as you are liking, sharing, commenting. So I do that once a month on the first of the month, and you can win $100 to my website, which you can use anywhere. So have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.